Jack, a tough detective, firmly does not believe in any supernatural phenomena. His good friend Tom is completely opposite, liking strange things and occasions. One day, Tom proposed a challenge. If Jack could enter the city's largest cemetery alone at midnight and prove that there was no paranormal phenomenon there, he would invite Jack to a luxurious dinner. Otherwise, if Jack could not complete it, he must pay Tom $100. For Jack, this challenge is as easy as pie, and as expected, he stepped into the cemetery alone at midnight. However, he met a kind-hearted old man in the cemetery. The old man claimed that Jack was the first person he had seen who dared to come to the cemetery at night and praised Jack's courage. Jack was puzzled by the old man's existence, but insisted on continuing his investigation. He always thought that the old man was just one of the cemetery staff. As his investigation went deeper, he began to notice a strange phenomenon. Some graves had people sitting in front of them, and they all smiled at him. When Jack finally realized that what he always disbelieved was right before his eyes, he was already deep in the cemetery and unable to leave. The silence of the night revealed a sense of panic, making him feel desperate. However, in this predicament, the kind old man gave him hope. He told Jack, "The ghosts that appeared in the cemetery all had wishes that were not yet complete, and they hoped to appear to allow the people in the world to help them without intending to harm anyone." The old man's words relieved Jack slightly, and he realized that these ghosts meant no harm. In the end, under the guidance of the old man, Jack successfully got out of the cemetery. He had gone through fear, despair, tension wrapped in a glimmer of hope and final relief. When Tom saw Jack returning, he asked about his experience last night. Jack took a deep breath and began to recount his experience that night. He described how he entered the cemetery, met the kind old man, and described the strange things he began to notice around him. He detailed all his horror, despair, and final comfort. Listening to Jack's story, Tom went from surprise to shock, then to deep understanding. Although Tom has always been curious about supernatural phenomena, he has never personally experienced them, let alone understood them so deeply. Tom smiled at Jack and said, "Jack, it seems you won this round. You proved your courage and even introduced me to some things I had never come across. My knowledge and recognition have exceeded my imagination. I will fulfill my promise of that grand meal." Tom's words made Jack laugh, and he was proud of his growth and new understanding. The conversation between Jack and Tom revealed a new excitement and curiosity. The ghosts in the cemetery that Jack talked about didn't end their stories, but sparked more exploration. They realized that many of the ghosts appeared because they had unfinished wishes, which were often things they could not achieve or complete in their lifetime. They first went back to find the old man Jack met that day, hoping to learn more. However, the old man never appeared during several subsequent visits. They finally understood that the old man who gave them directions last time was actually a ghost with unfinished wishes. Although the old man never reappeared, his words kept echoing in their hearts. Jack and Tom began visiting all the tombstones in the cemetery, attempting to find those souls with unfulfilled wishes and trying their best to help them fulfill their desires. Their first mission came from a ghost named Mary. In her lifetime, she was a poor mother, and her son was sent to an orphanage after her death. Mary's wish was to see her son and ensure he was doing well. Jack and Tom found the orphanage and Mary's son. Even though they couldn't tell him the truth about his mother Mary, they ensured he was receiving good care. When they reported back to Mary, her figure disappeared, seemingly satisfied with her wish fulfilled. Their second case came from an old soldier named George. In his lifetime, he and his brother were separated during a war. George's wish was to find his brother and ensure his well-being. After a long search, Tom and Jack finally found George's brother, Lieutenant Fred. Fred told them that George sacrificed his life to save him during a battle, and he has always been filled with guilt about it. They brought Fred's words back to George, letting him know that Fred constantly remembered him. Upon hearing this, George's figure also vanished. Although they can't communicate directly with the ghosts, they hope that their actions can bring rest to these restive souls by fulfilling these unfinished wishes. This became Jack and Tom's new mission. They were no longer just ordinary friends, but explorers on a mission, working to bring peace to restless souls. After dealing with multiple cases, Jack and Tom finally decided to return to help the old man they first met, who led them on this extraordinary journey. They were curious about the old man's wish, but they never knew his identity or what his wish was. They began investigating the possible identity of the old man, looking for clues that might relate to him. After some in-depth investigation, they learned that the old man was once a graveyard keeper named Al. Al had no family of his own. He had spent his life guarding the cemetery alone. His wish was that someone would recognize his dedication and loyalty. Upon learning this, Jack and Tom decided to celebrate Al's contributions in some way. They started a fundraising event in the city, hoping to build a memorial for Al in the cemetery to make everyone aware of his caretaking work and his respect for the deceased. Their event received widespread support. Everyone was inspired by Jack and Tom's courage and firm decision. Ultimately, they successfully built a beautiful memorial for Al in the cemetery, with an inscription that read, "To Al, the most loyal gravekeeper. He cherished every soul left here, and now we honor him for his contributions and love." On the night the memorial was completed and unveiled, they stayed in the cemetery and saw the figure of Al. He stared silently at his memorial, his eyes sparkling with grateful tears. Then, his figure gradually became transparent, eventually disappearing completely. In that moment, Jack and Tom felt a wave of warmth and peace, as if their hearts were filled with a certain strength. The feeling intensified when they looked at each other and shared a smile. They knew they had done it. They had achieved their goal, fulfilling Al's wish. Their adventure had reached a climax. Their efforts had brought Al the honor he had long awaited and given them a new aim in life. Standing under the moonlight, Jack and Tom's eyes were resolute and full of satisfaction. They knew that their lives would be a journey of exploration in a mystical world, seeking answers and growth amongst the unknown and the wonders. Their eyes rested on Al's memorial, smiling up at the sky. They knew they would forever remember this brave and fantastic gravekeeper. His spirit would always accompany them, adding power to their adventure.